Hello and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast. I'm Shane O'Connor, he's Adrian Lacey, and as you've probably gathered by just merely glancing at the artwork and looking at the title, we talk about comedy every week, although I have to say that this week's show is tinged with more than a little bit of sadness, as we heard the terrible news that Sean Locke, the comedian Sean Locke, has died at the age of 58. We're going to talk more about that in a second and pay some tribute to him, because I think it's the least that you can do when a great man and a great comedian like that passes. He's certainly going to leave a comedic void in the British comedy landscape. If you're not caught up with the podcast before, we, as I say, we look at comedy programs, we listen to comedy programs, and then we kind of reconvene and talk about the bits that we liked and that we didn't like. We choose alternately. It's my turn to choose this week, and I chose We Are Lady Parts.
Sorry.
More
I'm laughing already at the name.
I know. More of that to come in a little while, and we'll play a couple of clips if you're not caught up with this. It's a Channel 4 thing. It's on at the moment, actually. Well, depends on, with podcast, when at the moment is, because you could be listening to this.
No, it is literally on at the moment. My girlfriend's watching part 2.
No, but I mean, it could be in 5 years' time. It might not literally be.
I understand. Although it's Channel 4, so hopefully it will stay up indefinitely. Well, then will Channel 4 last that long?
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that at the moment is a fluid context, isn't it, really? As
we speak, I suppose it is anyway. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, but just at the moment it's gone, hasn't it now? Because I just mentioned it before.
Yeah,
so.
But you repeated yourself. With the word, repetition of the word moment. Wrong show,
repetition, hesitation, or
deviance.
Yes, deviance. There's a lot of that going on. So we will play a couple of clips and give you a little bit of a flavour of what the show that we're talking about, and we'll give it a score, each giving it a score out of 5 at the end of the show, which will give it a grand total, of course, added together, out of 10. But as we always do at this part of the Comedy Slab podcast, we talk about comedy news and, of course, the terribly sad news that Sean Locke has died at the age of 58. I don't know about you, Adrian. I mean, we'll talk about whether we've seen him and what we've done and the bits we caught up. I mean, we slabbed 15 Stories High a while ago, didn't we? One of his works. But for me and my wife, it's really weird. We're kind of down for a couple of days about this. Normally, when a celebrity passes, you kind of think, well, I didn't really know them and, anything like that. But we were just kept going back to social media and looking at tributes and clips and all that kind of stuff. It was a tough one, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And it was my waking thought the day after. And I got the impression I'd been dreaming about him a lot overnight. I couldn't remember anything specific, but it was just waking up. First thought was, oh, God, it's true.
Yeah.
Incredibly sad news. Too young, of course, and a bit like a couple of other comedians we've referred to previously, including some years back, Linda Smith. She died of cancer. We have no right to know they are suffering from cancer, but of course, for us as punters, it comes as a greater shock because we haven't had any sort of run up. I had no idea he was even ill. But as I say, he didn't owe us anything in terms of telling us that. I imagine people just, apart from anything, don't want the media attention.
I'm always humbled by people who do that, who are in the public eye and then choose not to do that in the public eye, because I think as you rightly say, for some reason there is a certain public expectation that people will share every facet of their life. They think that what they see, and I fall into this, and you probably do as well. What you think you mix up the real person with the act, and it's difficult to do. But it's interesting because the one thing that stuck in my mind is that I'd seen him twice live. I saw him once at the Assembly Rooms in Derby, and once at the De Montfort Hall in Leicester. I think it was about 10 years apart, something of that nature. And he used to do it in his act. He used to talk about he had skin cancer because he used to work on building sites.
Oh yes, and bare skin to the sun because he's just too hot doing physical work.
Yeah.
Are you going to mention the he couldn't ask his Irish boss
Yes, you couldn't
to rub in some ambre solaire?
Mick, you couldn't be a puppet, could you? And just come and put some
Be
on your
allowed.
back for me, you know. And you know, that was part of his act, that he'd had skin cancer and that it had been a problem. I'd seen him talk about it as well, but obviously, you know, I'm nobody's quite sure now when he knew how aggressive it had become. And how widespread, but like I said, like you rightly say, you know, nor do we have any right into that insight into his private life. It was the other thing that struck me was to say that he died at home, surrounded by his family, because he had been in a hospice, hadn't he? I know Harry Hill had spoken to him.
Right, I know I hadn't heard that.
Whilst he was in the hospice, and they said, "What did he say?" And he said, "Oh, I said to him, he said, oh, you're in a hospice." He said, "What's that like?" And apparently Sean Locke said, "The sex is great."
Ask a silly question.
But I mean, that's the point, isn't it? Is that, you know, you kind of get the impression with him that it wasn't too much of a stretch from his real persona.
That's the impression. I never met him, but I'm kicking myself now that I didn't see him live. It's just if anyone had said, "Oh, Sean's playing this place on such and such a date," I would have been there like a shot. It's just one of those things. You should have been much higher up the wish list. But I did overhear him being at TV Centre. Yes, I have got a name drop, but it doesn't go very far, so I'm not going to oversell it. But I overheard him talking to Jimmy Carr in the corridor. I don't even know for sure. I can't remember what the show was, and they weren't necessarily both appearing on it, although I suspect they were. I didn't think, but this is where it goes a bit hazy in my memory. BBC Television Centre had long since started making ITV shows. They made Harry Hill there. Harry Hill's TV Bert was made at BBC Television Centre before it just became TV Centre. Anyway, they were in the building at the same time. And I suspect actually now I can picture it geographically, they were by Studio 8, which might not mean anything to lots of people listening, but it was home to Morecambe and Wise for many years. But it was the dressing room. So the dressing rooms were allocated by show. So I'm guessing, yeah, they were on the same show. They were talking about something that was controversial. This is getting on for 10 years or so ago in the news. It was about gypsies or travellers or something. And they had both, Jimmy Carr can particularly go for it, liked to go right up to the edge. But they were having a serious chat about whether the audience would get it. And it was just great for that brief moment. And now there ain't going to be any more moments, obviously, with any of us, with poor Sean. But just to see two professional comics discussing something seriously, and you could see they're cut from the same cloth in some senses, the way their minds worked. Anyway, just that tantalising little bit of the curtain opened for me just for while I was walking down that corridor.
We always did this though, don't we? I did exactly the same thing with Ian Dury. When Ian Dury, it was announced that Ian Dury had died, and I had exactly the same feeling. Now, obviously, of immense sadness, and he'd been such a big part of my sort of growing up in the musical terms, both metaphorically and physically, and you kind of think, oh, why didn't I go and see? Why didn't I'd seen concerts, and why didn't I go? And he'd actually been playing, I think Warwick University,
so like close to you,
like a month, 6 weeks before, and I thought, oh no, I won't. And then, like you're saying, then you just realise that life is too short and you don't get the opportunity anymore. You really don't. It was just the way that there was so many great tributes paid to him, so many lovely articles written about him, and you realise that he not only was he a huge comedic talent, but also he had a lot of friends in the business, didn't he? As well, that there is no doubt. And he just had that naughty. There was that, we talked about this when we were talking about 15 Stories High, wasn't it? There's his surrealist sort of side, but there was also that kind of naughty, is he, like you say, the Jimmy Carr thing? Is he being serious about this, or is this the shtick or what? But and I was minded of the fact that, and I'm sure I saw him do this in stand up when he was saying that he said, "I'm in therapy at the moment." He said, "I don't need it." He said, "Obviously," he said, "but I got some psychiatrist gift vouchers for Christmas." He said, "My family clubbed together for them." He said, "It wasn't what I asked for." He said, "What I asked for was a crossbow."
The way his mind worked, just amazing.
But the way he put gags together as well, Adrian, don't you think?
Oh,
the way that
craftsman, absolute craftsman.
Yeah, and you kind of, to me, that is like honed and honed and honed. There isn't a spare bit of fat on it, is there really?
No, just beautiful.
Yes, sad loss, and a great man, a funny man, and at least he leaves a wonderful legacy for us comedy connoisseurs. Anyway, let's move on and talk about the program that we're looking at this week. We Are Lady Parts. Now, normally, I mean, one of the things that we'll say to each other is whoever's chosen it, which was me in this particular case, would ask the other one, which is you. You're the other one this week. Next week.
Well, I don't feel the other one. I feel you're the other one.
Well, don't feel the other one. Just feel the one you've got. Don't be greedy about it.
Feel the one that you're with, as Stephen Stills nearly said.
Nearly said, yeah. I'll be the other one next week. I couldn't leave it because I just couldn't leave it alone. We normally sort of say, "Oh, how did you feel when did you know anything about it?" But you'd actually watched this, haven't you? Isn't this your...
Yeah, you wouldn't have wanted me not to be truthful about that.
God, no.
The reason I watched it, or what brought my attention to it, and it wasn't just the title, it was an article in the Trade magazine. Which I can recommend if you're not in the industry. It's great for curing insomnia, but unfortunately I'm dull enough to find it really stimulating. And it was a sort of behind the scenes look at it, at the making thereof, or sort of an insider's look. And I was just intrigued. And I mean, there's loads of shows. The more I find out about them and the way they're shot and created or whatever, the more I just have to see them. And this was a case that I just couldn't wait once I saw it on Channel 4. So it's still up there on Channel 4 or the All 4 app, channel4.com, take your pick. But I can at least say, quite honestly, because I watched it shortly after it came out, which I believe was back in May. Where are we now? August. It's sufficiently long for me last week when you set it as homework to think, oh, I wonder how I revisit it this time, and watching it with a comedy slab eye, which is slightly different to just watching it, while eating and not paying full attention.
Oh, I think it's massively different, isn't it? It's completely different to when you're slabbing it. I mean, you're watching it, all senses going, aren't you? Really. Broadcast magazine. I mean, I have to tell you that Adrian gets excited by articles entitled "Sennheiser lav mics." Well, they grab you by the lapels.
Are they the future?
Are they the future? So, shall we whack a clip up first then, and have a quick listen, and then we can get into a headline and find out how your first time, second time round was. It's easy for me actually because I can just let the lead character, who's called Amina Hussain, introduce herself because she does it better than I ever could.
Hi. So yeah, that is me, Amina Hussain, 26, Capricorn, finishing a PhD in microbiology. That is Mum, Dad, parental unit, standard. They didn't always come with me to meet potential spouses. This guy insisted. So, do you have any hobbies aside from worship?
Worship is not a hobby.
Yes. No, of course, duh.
Are you sure you want like some tea?
Sure, he had Dementor vibes, but his eyes were actually kind of dreamy. With the shoulders of a Mesopotamian warlord, our eyes meet across the sand dunes.
And do you always dress like this? Bright colours and everything? Oh, no, she's usually much more modest, and her skin is usually a lot clearer, but she's, premenstrual.
Yeah, she sweats a lot. I mean, but she's very fastidious.
Please stop.
Have you been on Hajj?
Not yet.
Soon, inshallah.
She sweats a lot, but she's very fastidious. Yeah, so I haven't got a brilliant headline, but without further ado, because it's not brilliant, I'll get straight into saying we are lovely parts. Or I admired their lady parts. How's that? No, it's getting worse.
That's worse. You're going in the wrong direction there.
When you're in a hole, stop digging.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, better than I remembered it, even better than I remembered it, and I think there is a danger of me watching more than one episode, which
Oh wow!
regular listeners and you, Shane, will know is high praise indeed.
What gripped you then? What was the what was the hook in there that kind of made you think, oh yeah, I'd like some more of this, please?
I think strong characterizations, strong characters. You know, I'm inclined towards anything musical, and it loves its music. And actually, although the initial feeling is, oh gosh, if you're white, this might not be relatable. Actually, loads of their reference points, not least musically, are white, and there's you know, it's mainstream, and I hope people give it the time of day. More people, not frightened off by the fact it looks a bit like edgy Channel 4 when. Okay, it has its edgy moments, but no more so than a Ricky Gervais show, for instance.
You see, it's interesting you say, because I mean, I don't think I would disagree slightly. I don't think it's about being white. I think it's about religion rather than race more than anything. I think it's about, if you're not Muslim, I think it might be an issue, but we'll talk about that more in a bit. But about the edginess of it, I kind of, one of the things that attracted me to it was I thought it was going to be edgy. I'll be honest with you, I thought there'd be more guitar porn in it than there was. But you kind of everything. I think because it's about a band, I thought, oh, there's going to be lots of guitars on display and all that sort of stuff. But I was a bit disappointed on that front as well. But I didn't think it had an edge at all. I thought it was really soft and squidgy around the edges. I didn't think it had. I didn't feel an edge to it at all.
And you mean that as you could have done with a bit more?
Yeah, I thought it was going to have more of an edge to it. I thought it was going to be, but I thought it was like really. I mean, obviously, aside from the fact that the very obvious fact that it is completely not diverse at all, is it? There's no diversity in there. It was just really weird because it kind of had no balls, for want of a better word. I felt it was like really. I mean, we are lady parts. It's got no balls. I mean, I suppose you kind of expected it.
That's not much of a headline. That's just stating
it should. Yeah, it should have. That should be a prerequisite, I guess. But yeah, I was really shocked because I thought I don't know if I'd had trickery by trailer.
Well,
I'd seen the trailer.
It's a known phenomenon, sir.
Yeah, and thought, oh, this is going to be. That's watching the trailer. I thought, oh, that's. And I'm sure I watched the trailer and thought, oh, I'd like to give that a bit of a viewing. But I kind of felt that nothing that I'd seen in the trailer portrayed the thing that it was. And like I say, other than the lack of diversity, all of the women in it were really quite posh. They're like, there wasn't an accent on display, was there? They were all RP, every single one of them. And you kind of think, come on now, there was nothing at all really in terms of any kind of diversity.
I hadn't picked up on the accent thing, and I do take your point about the religion being probably more relevant than racial roots. Yeah, that's a good point. On the diversity, well, if you added it up over the years, I think the sum still comes out quite heavily, weighted towards the majority population. Not surprisingly,
but that's no argument at all, though, is it? That's like saying, no, it's okay being racist because people have been racist previously, so that's okay, that's fine. You can't.
I don't think
two wrongs
like
don't ever make a right, do they? I mean, you can't have that as an argument and say, well, I mean, I'm saying in the context of this, I thought diversity was king now, and in the context of this, there is no diversity. I think there were two white people in it, and they were both children, and they both had about 2 lines each. So
I think it's fine. When it took me into another world.
Another world?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Go on.
Well, I don't move in Muslim circles particularly.
Not in those trousers, you don't.
Gyrating to the lady parts.
Yeah. Can I just say the other thing is as well the fascination with Islam and TV executives baffles me. I don't, you'd never see this. If I'd have went in and said, "Oh, I've got this about this Catholic punk band or this Jewish punk band." Or this, I don't know, let's go to the extremes in terms of the fringes, as it were. Like this Scientology punk band, I can't imagine them making them. There's this kind of like real morbid fascination with Islam. I really don't understand where it comes from.
Don't know about the word morbid there, but I mean, there's a show called Friday Night Dinner. So, and there are other shows with pretty strong Jewish elements.
Christian? Catholic?
Christian, yes, Vicar of Dibley, to name but one.
To name the one.
I don't know about that. If we sat here long enough, let's not get hung up on that. Can you enjoy it as a show with some crisp lines and some creative direction? And obviously not.
I thought it was dreadful.
You're shaking your head.
I thought it was dreadful. All of that aside, and just on the premise of a comedy program, I'm afraid I was in that horrific no man's land again, where I was waiting for the jokes to explode over my head and nothing happened. There wasn't a funny line in it, I didn't think.
You didn't feel drawn into the world, so you were sort of looking from the outside, I guess.
Well, I'd had enough connection with the music and bands and stuff. And like, stuff kind of kept letting me down all the while. Like there were there was a flashback scene, where she said, "Oh yeah, I remember you were at school. You were really good playing guitar, and then you threw up over everybody." And they turned to this flashback of this little girl playing guitar, and it was dreadful. So she wasn't really good.
Yeah, that was an odd one. Yeah, and the guitar was way out of tune, as it was when we returned to children a bit later on.
Yeah,
I sort of. It's one of those things. Yeah. If you're not enjoying the show, that's going to stick out like a sore thumb. I end up making apologies for it, but at the same time, knowing I was making apologies for it in my own head.
Yeah. Do you know, it's really weird because I kind of think, oh, I'm getting silly now, or I'm hung up on this because really I'm hung up on something else. And so I went to read a few, just punter reviews, and a lot of people said, that's not punk. Why are you the reviews that didn't like the show either said, that's not how Muslims are, we're different, written by Muslims, or it was people, and I don't know what their background was, but it was people saying that isn't punk music. So the two main premises of the...
Well, I don't know. I mean, posh punk, maybe. The thing was, there was a song which I'm sure is going to become a massive mainstream hit, which is "I'm going to honour kill my sister," or words to that effect.
Well done.
Which I might not be word for word there.
Well, I couldn't understand the blooming word of it, so I didn't. I think honour killing. I think I heard, but other than that, I couldn't pick it up. So
nobody's going to honour kill my sister but me. Maybe it was more like that, which I thought, provided it's not acted out, I thought was quite funny. That was punky. You can't. I mean, it's not Val Doonican, is it?
It's interesting all the way through as well. I thought if this had been a non-Muslim writer writing it, how it would have been received. I mean, I think by Muslim people it wouldn't be received differently. They didn't like it. If they, I think more Muslim people didn't like it than kind of did. But I just thought, if it had been a non-Muslim that had written it, how it would have been considered to be, I don't know, probably worse, blasphemous, at best disrespectful. I'm sure it'd be no comfort to anyone that the creator of it, I believe her name, I'm guessing her name is pronounced Nida Manzoor. Yeah.
She got harangued on social media. I think I read that she had to come off social media. I was reading up on Nida's influences, and they tend to be stuff that you and I like. I mean, absolute down the line mainstream shows. And I think she wanted to write. Well, I do feel it's a mainstream show, but maybe in sheep's clothing.
Right. I mean, there was the stuff that was obviously lifted, wasn't there? I mean, when they were all in the car and they were singing the Proclaimers song. I thought there's definitely you could draw a line there, straight line between that and Wayne's World. I don't know if you remember the scene with.
Oh yeah,
with
are they singing Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yeah, in the car.
In
it goes
the
the guitar lick and then dung 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 dung, and then we'll do it. And I thought, there's a kind of I don't know, there's a kind of nod to that or.
But the point there is it's the Proclaimers, isn't it? It's not some obscure out of left field song. It's a massive down the line mainstream hit from years ago. It is itself a joke that of all the songs they could sing, they're enjoying that one together.
You know, the good thing about it though, I did, and you know, looking at the positives of all of it, the production values were quite high, weren't they? I mean, there was, you know, when she was imagining her suitor as this great warrior or something like that, and you thought, well, they spent a bit of money on that, you know. I mean, they didn't skimp on it, did they?
No, but as you scolded me when I mean, you're not saying it's a bad thing, are you?
No, I said one of the positives is that they spent a bit of cash on it, so you can't say, oh, it was cheap and tawdry.
Unlike you.
Unlike me, I am both of those things.
Who's both?
Yeah.
But no, it was nice. And there's some lovely camera work. I was trying to quickly sneak a credit for the camera. It's single camera working as far as I can make out. But no, very nicely done. And there's a sort of brief encounter sequence, isn't there?
Flashback, yeah. I like to the feel like black and white, and it was all terribly very well done. That was very well done. But again, I didn't. And I like second viewing. I thought, oh come on, Shane, have a titter. Come on, have a. You know, I was channeling me in a Frankie, and I was going to go on, have a titter. Go on, have a titter.
No, don't
have a titter, love. But I couldn't. To quote a 1950s radio show, I couldn't raise a laugh. I couldn't. I just couldn't.
You'd gone too far, hadn't you, down the road of resistance?
I popped all my clothes on a stool, and I still couldn't have a giggle. It was terrible. I don't know. Yeah, I don't. Do you know, the interesting thing as well is that I thought the writing was really quite weak. I thought the plot was very thin and one-dimensional, and I thought the characters were very thin and one-dimensional. And you could have knocked me down with a feather when I saw that the script editor was Jeremy Dyson from the League of Gentlemen.
I hadn't spotted that, but well, I was going to say the reverse. I thought it was well structured and well written, so I am less shocked by that. You just haven't bought into it at all, and I've sort of been seduced. And whichever view you take will be. You obviously pays your money as a listener to side with me or Shane. I don't think I'm going to win you over on this one, but it's good that you could see some positives at least.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I came away feeling like I'd watched a drama, you know, with a bit of lightness to it, but a drama nonetheless because of the you know, the kind of lack of gags, really. You know, I didn't. There wasn't anything that kind of stand out. I thought, oh yes, that was a really funny section there. It was all kind of really. Listen, should we have another listen to another clip and see if we can? So, I mean, and it's interesting. I don't know whether you do this as well, but the clips always surprise me because of how different it is without the visuals. Even though you know what the visuals are. It's really freaky. In this particular scene, Amina, our main character, Amina gets given a flyer by a guy that she quite fancies, and it leads her to a butcher's shop. And the butcher's shop is where the band, although she doesn't know this yet, is where the band are auditioning for a new member.
Hi. I'm looking for a boy, a man. He gave me this. Medium built, radiant, sad eyes you can swim in. Could you kindly direct me to his whereabouts?
You got your brother to hand out the flyers.
Thought we might reel in a thirsty bitch with a shred of talent.
Wait, is he here to audition or what?
No.
You went to St Abigail's primary school. You played guitar on the talent show.
What?
You were good.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
You were really good. Until he puked all over the year sixes in the front row.
Not my finest hour. I remember you. You're Saira.
You got expelled for selling school furniture. Verily 'tis I.
Oh, so hang on, you are a guitarist?
She's a guitarist.
Play something.
Play something.
Play something. I don't play, I just teach.
You've got a play to teach.
I don't perform. My nervy disposition induces diarrhea and vomiting.
Ew.
I just teach, okay? I just teach!
She does just teaches and gets the kids to perform.
Did somebody say just teach?
Very good.
Thank you.
So for someone who thinks there's not any gags in the show, at least there are gags that you're creating around the show.
I'm writing my own. I'm writing my own. Do you know what it reminded me of? I don't know whether you've got thoughts on. I don't know if you've even seen the film. Have you seen the film East is East?
I did actually. I saw it in New York. It was
yeah.
the first image I saw. I went all the way to New York, thousands of miles. First time I'd ever been to America, and the first image I saw on screen was down the road from where I worked at Shepherd's Bush near TV Centre. I thought, in it marvellous.
Come all this blooming way, mate. You never get so out in the back of the cab this week. Yeah, it kind of got a bit of a flavour of that. Although I remember that as being quite a funny film.
Right, that was Channel 4. It was a Film 4, I think, when they had a Film 4.
That's right. Yeah, it probably was actually. Yeah, but yeah, kind of. I don't know whether that was an influence or not. But I mean, did you actually laugh out loud in at it? I mean, that's a high standard.
No, but it's very odd because I don't want to categorise it with my old cliche of calling it a smile com.
Yeah.
And yet, I think you're probably pushing at something when I certainly didn't laugh like a drain. I tell you what, I did. I warmed to it, and it might sound daft, and it might sound like these are not the usual criteria by which I would judge a show, but I did love those little sequences we touched on, or in case we haven't, in case it hits the floor, the edit. The sequence with it's in black and white. It's channeling brief encounters, and she's doing her best Celia Johnson terribly. And then I confess I've seen a few minutes of episode 2. I know that's breaking the I've transgressed the unwritten code or whatever it's called.
Tell me now. I'm glad you did, because tell me, does it? One of the things I had a real issue with was pace. Was that they're kind of like they really confine themselves in the first episode to, will she, won't she sort of thing, and so that they could set it up at the end for there she was playing, and hopefully we're moving on. So did they move it on much in the second episode?
Well, I only literally saw the. Probably not even a full few minutes, but the reason I was watching it was myself and my girlfriend were curious. Was it going to go through a different member of the band in each part of the series?
Right.
Because that was one where they could have gone, because so much was focused on, what we're calling our leading lady, who might have turned out not to necessarily be the leading lady. They actually stick with her, so she, in effect, it is her story we're watching unfold. Pace, I don't feel I can comment from the top, but I felt it wasn't dragging. But that's not quite what you're asking, is it?
No, I just wondered. I thought you'd say more of the second episode and whether it kind of took it on and.
Well, it moved things on. Yeah, that kind of answers your question. Doesn't it?
I mean, I may well watch the second episode. You asked the question, I never answered it, but whether I will watch another episode, I may well watch episode 2, and I've done this with other stuff that I've not been so keen on, just purely to see if it was the episode that I wasn't so keen on, or the series, the concept wasn't really working for me at all. So yeah, I might watch another episode, but. I don't know. There was an element of kind of wasted opportunity, really, that I felt it could have been so much more. It could have done so much more. It could have been a lot funnier. I felt it really relied on women swearing being intrinsically funny, or women saying rude things being intrinsically funny. And in the same way that I don't find men or lads swearing or saying rude things intrinsically funny, I'm afraid it was a no from me. You know, that did you get that sense? Did you have a sense of that at all? That it was kind of like, it's a bit like kind of young ones syndrome, you know, that sort of, if I say something rude or naughty, then that is automatically funny.
Yeah, I think that there is a weakness there, but I don't think too much weight. For me, it didn't feel like that the whole weight of the structure was going through that. I can understand why you would feel that. And if I didn't say it before, I think some of the edginess I referred to, some of the edginess for the show comes from just edgy relative to how you expect Muslim women to behave. If I mean, I certainly don't move in those circles. So it's a kind of kick against a conformity to how we might expect Muslim women to behave. I've got a little analogy here about diversity. It probably won't wash, but I'll try it anyway. Which is that if you think your favourite broadcaster of the monolithic BBC, how it is at election time is very hot on balance between political parties. The closer you get to an election, the hotter it is. So one show has to show balance. But away from an election, it's just over time we expect the BBC to be balanced to all parties, or certainly the main three. And that's how I think I interpret diversity. Like, you know, if you look just at this show, no, it isn't diverse. If you look across the piece, I was watching Peep Show last night. That's very white, and it's starting to look quite dated in other ways as well. But so yeah, that's how I see it.
Right.
Probably doesn't help, but that's what I've thrown to the mix.
No, I mean, I like I say, I go back to it before. It's either an issue or it isn't an issue. It's either an issue for everybody or it isn't. If it isn't an issue for everybody, then it becomes very divisive and destructive, I'm afraid. And I think that's going to be a problem that people probably, after we've long gone, are going to have to try and figure out how they do that. But you know, I didn't. It was like they showed the yobs in the back of one of them was an Uber driver. One of the women was an Uber driver, and the yobs they were like white kind of like, you know, almost. I think they resisted telling him to get the skinhead haircut, but that was the feel that they were going for. And I just thought, oh, here we go again, stereotypes. You know, but stereotypes are okay in some. It seems are okay in some ways, and are very funny, and in other ways they're not very funny. You kind of think, you know, you either go with that or you don't go with that, and it has to be for everybody. That's what surely is what diversity means. It doesn't, or it's shorthand for something else. In which case, we should stop using it as a shorthand and just say what we really mean. But
I was heartened to see at least the actors all played their instruments.
Well, they didn't. They didn't. That was the other thing I got to say. Is the one thing I really hate is bad miming.
But they did play them in the recording that you're hearing. But if you're single camera, you've got to cut between different performances, haven't you?
They weren't playing guitars. They weren't playing the chords. That I can tell you that.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying they played on the recording. Yeah, it would have been better if. Well, yeah, you're picking up on these things. I didn't spot that because I'm not a guitarist. But,
I had 25 years of watching Top of the Pops. I had. Do you remember Dave Wakeling in The Beat? Do you remember
The Beat? Yeah.
And I always used to watch Dave Wakeling play guitar, and I'm thinking, how the hell is he playing that guitar? And I interviewed Rankin Roger, who was also in the band some years later, and said, I used to watch Dave Wakeling on Top of the Pops. How was he playing that guitar? He was just like, and he said he just tuned it to an open chord and just played with one finger up and down because he couldn't play guitar. So yeah,
that's good.
I'm a bit of an anorak. I'm a bit like your broadcast magazine story.
Yes.
Mine would be Chords Weekly. But yeah, they weren't playing at all, which was another thing that kind of always ruins it for me. But I keep quiet about that one.
Do you think it's that time we cannot put off any longer where we score it out of 5 each?
I think it is. Do you want to go foist or do you want to go second?
I've got a feeling we're going to be a bit at extremes on this. I will go first, and so you won't believe this, but I want to give it 4.
You want to give it 4?
A breath of fresh air. Enjoyed it.
I felt really obliged to say it like that because you said I wouldn't believe it. So
don't feel pressurised by me, but I think you were surprised anyway.
You want to give it 4?
Double bluff. You're gonna. Do you want me to second guess what you're going to give it? 1.5 at best, I think.
Yeah, 1.5 at best, and it wasn't best, so I'll give it 1 for me.
You rotter. Really. Oh well, at least we're giving it half marks between us.
Yeah, I could get on with it at all. Like I say, I couldn't get past all of the other things aside. I couldn't get past the lack of gags. But I know you're a big fan of Smartcom, so hey, why not?
No, that is not true. I generally don't like shows, but I don't know. I'm going to have to watch another one and work out if I find myself laughing, why, and if I don't, why, and why do I still like it if I still like it. That's not a very interesting list, is it?
Can I just mention that this is a working title, Peacock production for Channel 4.
Thank you. And you're a bit of a peacock yourself, so put your feathers away. What I have for you and for our dear listeners this coming week, is actually an audience member's suggestion. The wonderfully named Blair Carlton. Just let that name sort of resonate around your mouth. He's steered us to, and we are open to suggestions. We don't guarantee going with each of them, but this has opened my eyes to an artiste I hadn't come across before. Blair is Scottish, as is this comedian by the name of Limmy. And the series is called, quite simply, Limmy's Homemade Show. The series, I believe, only ever ran to 3 episodes, and it is the last of those. So it's episode 3 of Limmy's Homemade Show. And it's a BBC show.
BBC Scotland, isn't it? I think.
BBC Scotland. I beg their pardon.
I'm a bit up to speed with Limmy. It wasn't Limmy a well, we'll talk about this next week. But I think he's a YouTube fella. But
oh right, okay. Well, I've clearly got some homework to do on that. Not least watching the show, not once but twice. And I'm looking forward to an act that I come to completely fresh. So thank you very much for the suggestion, Blair Carlton. And you too, of course, can suggest a show via various outlets, which we'll give you in just a moment. Or shall I do that now while we're talking about such things?
Go on, fill your boots. I know you love it.
Yeah. So anti-social media on Twitter, we are at Comedy Slab. There's also a Facebook page, which we'd love you to like or like you to love. Give it a good old thumbs up. That's also at Comedy Slab. Follow us on Twitter. Big thumbs up on Facebook, if you'd be so kind. And then Shane will tell you all the various platforms we are on. And I don't mean platform shoes, or indeed railway platforms, but that will be in just a mo. I will steer you, if I may, to a personal recommendation to friends and family. Just pass the word on, if you'd be so kind. And lastly, but in no way leastly, a generous star rating on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, call it what you will, with a little comment, hopefully saying your warm feelings towards our regular comedy review show, the Comedy Slab. That would be hugely welcome. Thank you.
What was the middle bit? What am I doing?
I think you're telling us about platform shows. No, platforms where you can find this very show.
Right. Okay. Yes. There's you've done the platform shoes gag already, so that's ruined that one. I was going to go. Yes, I've got mine on.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, we've got Spotify.
You've forgotten.
I was just going to reel off it. I was going to go Spotify, Wikipedia. Yeah, you can find us on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify. Very popular on Spotify. But a lot of people get their podcasts from Spotify. It's amazing how many. Can I just digress a second? It's amazing how many people. Somebody said to me the other day, Can you? I don't even know how you set it up to get other episodes or be notified when another episode. Falls kind of thing, and I think there's always, we kind of assume that people know all about podcasting, but people know what they need to know, don't they? But yeah, Spotify very popular, and you can also get us on YouTube, where we have not, as Adrian said last week, moving pictures, but as I was corrected him, we have a moving picture.
A subtly changing graphic in the background.
Yes.
Ish.
Yeah, so
Did you help this person out who wanted to know how to subscribe? I do hope you made the effort.
I just told him to go away and stop bothering me. I got all rock and roll. I got all Hollywood on my ass, and
that's no way to speak to your wife.
Well, you see,
well, anyway, it's in settings. So.
Yeah, but there's no easy answer, is there? Because it depends what you're listening to on in the first place, really. So
we're meant to be encouraging this returning habit of listening every week.
Yeah. I said just come round my house when I'm recording it and just sit behind me. That'll be fine.
Sit quietly.
Yeah. So it's good night from me and it's goodbye from him. Thank you very much for your company. Join us next week when we can completely disagree about what we like, what we don't like.
No, we can't.
Yes, we can. I don't know whether I prefer it when we agree or when we disagree. I always come away when we agree feeling disappointed, and when we disagree, I always feel really aggravated. So I'm not really quite sure which is the best one.
Yeah.